And when you start expanding, you can easily to expand, but you see that there's different interpretations of your collection. Some of you may have been in Paris this week, where I just came from. We were at Maison Roger, and that had that was a corporate showroom in Maison Roger, and that had a very different look to the showroom that you are seeing here today. And you can go from here to China, and you'll see different interpretations. Now, my task is how to bring the same interpretation under one name. So if you go to Chanel, you don't see a different store in Beijing or in Mexico City. You see the same look. And it's my task is for these next 18 months is how to bring that together. But what should a showroom look like? What is happening in our industry? And I've always been asking that. What has been happening in our industry? What kind of direction should we be going in? Well, as far as the collection is concerned, it expanded into Christopher Guy, embracing everything. But you start having a problem when it starts getting too big. And the problem is that you can come up with different ideas and different styles, but it's your customer can start getting lost in what they're seeing. So where we are heading is, and we've been working on the back office of the company. That's the ERP systems, the database systems that hold all of the companies together. That's been a 5-year project to maintain, to put that together. Because without that, you can't expand the company. You can't go from that corner shop to Saks Fifth Avenue unless you have those systems. It's too much of a giant jump. The other thing is that I always compare that you can have stages when you decide to make your business much larger. I didn't want to make the business larger for the sake of making it larger, but I realized that unless it was larger, I wouldn't have all of the infrastructure that would allow me to one day to stand back. And so that where we are with the systems have been very key to the growth of the business. The website has been very key to growing the business, and we do all of that in-house. I think now we employ 15 IT in the business and 3 full-time programmers that you see on the website. The website, our website, is not only incorporating our programming, but there's also third-party programs which are adding to the experience. But we still have a long way to go. So where are we going? So first thing with the product line. The product line we had to resolve the question of how not to have a muddled image. So as this next 18 months goes along, we're splitting the collections and creating new collections. Those collections are, everything at the moment is Christopher Guy, but the new brands will be, you'll have Galleria by Christopher Guy. Galleria will be incorporating down mirror frames, artware, lighting, and that'll all come into a look which is, say, Galleria. Then the signature. The signature is my particular look. And my look, when I was designing furnishing, I've always asked myself, well, how do you give yourself that unique look? And with Galleria, you can have some extravagant items, but an extravagant item won't fit into a lifestyle collection. I've always admired the work of Thomas Bez and Barbara Barry when they put their collections together, very, very clear lifestyle collections, and they did a marvelous job. My collection was coming from more of a gallery background because it was coming in from mirror frames, and so when I started off doing furnishings, I had to say, well, how do I do something which is different? I've had a long admiration for the 1920s, 30s, what we'd call over here Hollywood glamour, which was probably started by the French designers, like some of the Jacques Roumans of the 1920s and 30s. And there are a lot of clean lines. And why I like those, because they were probably the first lines that weren't national, didn't have a national identity. So if you had a Chippendale chair, it was very English. A Louis XIV, the fauteuil, they were very French. But what I admired about those designers, they suddenly became very international, and they were timeless as well. So I admired what I saw. And so it came down to designing, I started on chairs. We actually didn't start on chairs that long ago. I think it was just over, we had dabbled in chairs maybe as far as 10 years ago, but we only got serious about putting a chair division maybe only 3 years ago in the company. Well, I had, you have a chair, obviously it has 4 legs, and so how could I do something which was still have four legs in the way, but would have a particular identity. This chair was inspired by watching Gone with the Wind. So watching Gone with the Wind was a Scarlett O'Hara, and you see the waistline there. This comes in, the shoulders and the waistline. And you'll see that the ballerina pose with the legs crossed, I thought that was always very elegant as well. So I incorporated that into the chair. The goal was how to avoid the chair tipping over, so it doesn't tip over, it's completely stable, fortunately. So it was just, I think if you look at brands, as I was mentioning about Chanel or Louis Vuitton, they have, there was a company, an English company called Asprey, and I was in their store maybe 5 years ago on Fifth Avenue. And I went in, and it was a beautiful big store. It was in Trump's building. And I was asked, and the manager says, well, what do you think of our store? I said, you've got a great store, but I don't know what you stand for. And so we had to think, is it about the scarves? Is it about the leatherware? Is it about the shoes? And there was no answer. I realized 2 years later that store is no longer there. It's now a Gucci store. And so you have to be recognized for something. So in the designs, when I was doing mirror frames, I never looked at another mirror company. I would look at anything else but a mirror company to draw inspiration. Because I always believed that there were some beautiful companies, particularly in those days, it was an Italian company I thought did wonderful work. But just to go and take what they were doing, that was like copying someone's exam, And I admired what they did, and I had to go out and do something different, which was the challenge. Same thing with upholstery was a challenge there as well. Now the challenge is, as the line has become more successful, is how to divide those collections. So I mentioned about Galleria. This is the signature collection. The collections that we're working on for introduction will be either late in this year or early 2012. It'll be called Mademoiselle by Christopher Guy, and it'll be my interpretation of what I would dream of or see of Coco Chanel's house if she were alive today. What would her house look like? If she was 38 years old today, what would her house look like? So it gives me a goal. So it's also something which is easy for people to understand. When I go on to the other collections, the same thing with Opulent. I can take, again, some of them elaborate Italian designers, and I could do the same thing. And I have to look beyond myself in the company, because signature is difficult for me to explain to another designer. They can't really get it. They can't really carry it forward. But if you say Mademoiselle or the other Galleria or Opulent was the fourth collection will be called, it'll be easy for designers to grasp it and to run forward with it. The most successful buildings that I've seen, the hotels, have come with a theme. Not an obvious theme. I'm not talking like Treasure Island or that type of theme, which I think is very, very successful. So I'm not saying, but a theme of there's hotels which has been wonderful work in Indonesia, where Western designers have worked with Indonesian designers and come up with some great designs. One of those is in a hotel that inspired me enormously was in Indonesia, in Jakarta, called the Dharma Wansa Hotel. And that was 1998, and I went into this hotel thinking as a European I knew it all. Elegance comes from Europe, it doesn't come from anywhere else. And then I went into that place, and I said, my God, I've got to go completely back to the drawing board, because this is where true elegance is. And why was it elegance? Because they mixed simplicity with grandeur. It was a beautiful, beautiful job. And everyone I used to take there were awed by it. That was done by a designer called Jaya Ibrahim, who was from Indonesia, had studied worked in England for 20 years, had done a wonderful job. And so I got inspired by how to create simplicity, but in an elegant form. And so that was my goal. And so today we are repackaging the company. The company has a lot of work to do. It's got probably 2 years more. And I think I'd say, Chris, I think you've achieved your goal now. You've got the company where you wish it to be. The lines have to be constantly adjusting. There'll be clear lifestyles, clear looks in each of those lines. There'll be you have to have products available on demand. So currently we manufacture to order, but we've been doing a manufacturing to stock as well as a manufacturing to order on those items that are just outside of the borders of each of the collections. So the other thing is how to create a great showroom. I was looking around at showrooms, and you look at showrooms around the world, what you see in Milan, what you see in Paris, what you see in High Point, and what you see here in Las Vegas. It was fantastic to see a showroom when they have used all of the tools at their disposal, branding. I think it was lovely to meet the owners of Global Village yesterday, and I thought that's a tremendous job what they have done there. It's still pots and pans, if you know what I mean. But those pots and pans have been shown in a phenomenal way. They're putting those collections together, and so there are ways. Each company has the ability to move their brand along, but they have to move on from what their neighbors are doing. And I think in our business, it's important. So we have a new showroom opening up in Harrods in London, and we have a lot of innovation going on that. We're using multimedia, both for how does a designer work, what are the tools that they can use quickly, and how can they use those same tools and bring them onto the internet. So there's a whole program going on about that. Then there's a mood, how to create a mood, so that there should be a mood when you go into a retail store. So to do that, we are creating in Singapore a 12,000 square foot space. I just took over and we said, well, we've got 6 months in which to create a retail environment, how to create a branded showroom. By doing that, that'll allow us to phase that out throughout the world, either as our own stores or as third-party stores. But we can't afford to have the different interpretations that are taking place around the world. So consistency is very much key. Let me see what else we have got in this video. Let's see it. Let's see what we're coming. Now, these are just different design elements that the design elements that I incorporate into the design. So we had the carving ability, but how to do something which was slightly different. And some of these elements will stay for a long time, others will disappear by the next collection. Because carving had always been traditional, I wanted to interpret it in a new way, so we had the carving skills. The beauty of when you're using mahogany is that you can carve it in any direction, and it's a very strong wood, so that's the beauty of that. The reason that I started the factory over here was primarily because of the great carving ability. This is the #1 carving area in the world. They start from such a young age, and it's being passed on for generations, 2 centuries now. When I stand here or I walk around the facilities of this factory, their workshops, it gives me a great deal of pleasure. The role that carving plays is so important. I thought that would be a nice little slogan that we used every now and again to describe what we do, carving out a piece of history. And I think each one of them is carving out their own piece of history, and carving is an integral part of what Christopher Guy does. Oh, actually, I have to thank Al Gould is here somewhere, and Al Gould, there's Al Gould. Al Gould has actually placed us in 15 different resorts and casinos here in Las Vegas over the years, and Al has been with us as our longest serving representative, and I'm very proud to have him here today. Thank you very much, Al, for coming down. And if there's ever a project